Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on DC movies. I was going to say DC TV, but yeah, we got another movie trailer coming out, or that's just come out over the past like 24 hours, roughly, give or take a few hours. And that, of course, is the Part 2 trailer for Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths, the animated movie. So about a week and a half ago, roughly, take or give a day or two, either way, we had the release of Part 1 of the Crisis on Infinite Earths animated movie event, properly titled Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, we did expect that we would get some form of trailer or tease or promo, just something like that soon after the release of Part 1 for Part 2, and that is now the case about a week and a half or so later. Now, the only thing is that we did not get a release date for Part 2. They just said coming soon, both on like the announcement and also at the end of the trailer. And that probably more has to do with Warner Brothers Entertainment and their release schedule, as they have a lot of other stuff coming out outside of this Crisis movie, or these 3 Crisis movies. But we do know that all 3 parts of the Crisis event are set to come out in this year of 2024. So I would be surprised if we are waiting too long for the second part to come out, and I don't think they would have released this trailer if it wasn't at least coming out in the next handful of months. So I'm not saying next month, but maybe by like April or something like that roughly. But as you would expect in this video, seeing it's labeled a trailer breakdown, we're going to be breaking down the trailer. Now, similar to Part 1, I can't play the trailer. They're not just copyright claiming, it's a bit of a mixture of copyright claiming some videos and then just blocking some other videos straight up that do play the trailer in full and everything like that. So I will just be showing images and maybe some like teeny tiny clips throughout the video to show what's going down throughout this teaser and everything like that. So sorry about that. It's just the way it is, unfortunately, because of copyright and goddamn Warner Brothers. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts on this. Are you excited about this? Did you like Part 1? You're looking forward to Part 2? What are your thoughts on some of the changes, if you have read the comic book storyline, from what they're doing from the comic book to this animated movie, and everything like that? And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video and you're looking forward to this, why not drop a like on the video? It takes 2 seconds. Now, this isn't the longest trailer. It's actually, I think I might have said it earlier, it's actually more of a teaser over anything, which probably means there could be a longer trailer. If not, most likely there's going to be a longer trailer for this second part of the Crisis event released sooner to the date of the actual release of the film, whenever that might be. So this is about, I think 45 seconds, but there is time within that, 45 seconds or so that is used to put like the title and the coming soon and everything like that, like pretty much wasted time. So there's not a ridiculous amount of footage. It's about 35 seconds, but it's enough to talk about and give us an idea as to where they're going with the story, as well as suggesting maybe some minor changes from the comic book storyline that's going to be in this animated version. So the first thing of note, which had a lot of people talking because of one specific inclusion, is that we had the Bat family, or mostly the Bat family, defending one of the tuning forks on one of the Earths. Now, of course, the tuning forks was set up in Part 1. They, built a couple of them and everything like that. But we don't know specifically what Earth this is. I can't really tell. It's not really stated. Though it does look futuristic, which makes me think that is why we have a certain character showing up, that being Batman Beyond, or Terry McGinnis. He's showing up here, which had a lot of people excited that, he's going to be in this because people weren't expecting it. Now, we do see them fighting shadow demons, and we even see like a Batwing come out. I don't know if it's meant to be Terry McGinnis's one, like the Batman Beyond Batwing or not, I'm not too sure, but we do see one of them coming out. Now, I'm not too sure if like they're going to get too much of the shadow demons, or even going to get like even a background story with them, or they're just going to show up and be this like, this like horde that they have to sort of fight off that's coming to sort of mess with the tuning fork here. And we also don't know if we're going to be like going to different Earths. But once again, it's a really short teaser. It's only showing a couple things, and it mostly focuses on one specific character that's going to play a big part in this, part of the Crisis event. So there's not too much here, but this will get people excited, all the Bat family members together, and obviously they're different versions and everything. They're not all from the same Earth. But as I was sort of suggesting, there is a focused character, if you want to put it, in the form of Supergirl. It does appear to be a very Supergirl focused, or not very because it's short, but it's like mostly Supergirl focused trailer / teaser, sort of similar to the Flash focused trailer for Part 1. And of course, in Part 1, that was very much the case. The trailer was Flash focused, and the actual movie itself was very Flash focused. It was probably more of a Flash movie rather than a Justice League movie, at least for that specific Part 1. I don't expect Part 2 to be like a Supergirl movie, just that she's going to have a lot of focus because of the importance to the story. But we do see Supergirl mainly with the monitor throughout the trailer, where she is being shown the future and going through some different things. And, you know, when I say shown the future, you know, I really mean she's being shown like the destruction of the multiverse that's coming their way. Now, we know that Supergirl was revealed to be Harbinger in part 1, which is a change from the comics. So I do wonder if there is a flashback to the, maybe before the events of part 1, or at least one of the scenes of flashbacks to before that, where she's, you know, like where she sees what is going to happen with the destruction of the multiverse, and then agrees to help the Monitor with this quest and is disguised as Harbinger. I don't know which way they're going to go about it. I'm not sure if that process where she was lying down is her being turned into Harbinger, or it's another process, because before she's in, you'll see her, she's in like the Legion of Superheroes outfit she was in, and then she's in the Supergirl suit. So I don't know which one, like if the Supergirl suit is meant to be like in the present day, if you want to call it, where they currently are after, like, you know, after part 1, or if that's meant to be before part 1 and then she's changed. I'm not too sure which way it is. She's wearing different outfits, so it gives you the hint that it's going to be a bit of a difference there, but it'll be interesting to watch at the very least. Now, people weren't the biggest fans of her being revealed as Harbinger. I don't really care too much. I just really care more as a story as a whole, but people are going to nitpick and everything like, oh no, it has to be exactly like the comic. Well, if you want that to be the case, go read the goddamn comic. This is an adaptation for this universe, so I'm fine with it. Now, of course, it is well known that Supergirl does meet a bit of a nasty fate when, you know, when it comes to the comic book storyline for Crisis on Infinite Earths, but this is only part 2, and this is a short teaser, as I mentioned more than a few times. So this could still happen in this part as well, or it could be saved for part 3 if it is going to happen. But even just from part 1 of this animated Crisis event, though they are following the story as a whole pretty well, there are still some differences that they chose creatively to either allow things to flow a bit more smoothly, or to sort of like not have to like introduce a brand new character that hasn't been in any of the previous films in this animated universe. One example being the one I mentioned just then before, with Supergirl being Harbinger, and even someone like Pariah not being a part of this story at all, at least so far. And there's even like potentially some characters that are meant to be decent players and around this portion of the story that weren't in part 1, and I just don't know if they'll introduce them in part 2 because of that same reason, like wasting time on new characters that you have to develop, or at least try and develop quickly, when you can just sort of remove that like area, or just remove that segment from the story as a whole and just replace it with something else, or slot another character in that spot. So we'll wait and see what happens in part 2, but part 2 could be where we see a lot of different changes depending on what they choose to include and not include. But as a whole, that means they could really change things up with the fates of certain characters later down the line in the story, whether it is later in part 2 or even just as a whole for the story, that just works better for what they're trying to tell here with their version of Crisis on Infinite Earths, which, as I said before, I'm 100% fine with, just as long as it doesn't like weaken the final product. But if anything, because of the limited, like just sort of like cutting down the amount of characters and more focusing maybe on the ones that people care about the most, it could potentially strengthen the final product. But once again, it just depends on execution. Now, one character we do see a couple of shots of in this teaser is Psycho Pirate. Of course, he was set up in part 1, but it was purely that setup. Now, this second part looks to be where he gets to work, if you want to put it. And I am intrigued to see if they show any background story, if that's the way they want to go about it, with him before he got to the Monitor ship in part 1, because he was acting sus as hell on that ship. Because in the actual comic book storyline, from memory at the very least, there's nothing beforehand. He does it like after he gets on the ship. Like he gets put on Monitor's ship and then he sort of gets influenced. I don't think he gets influenced before from memory. I might be wrong, but I don't think there's anything that happened with him before. And like I left this until now rather than talking about it with the Supergirl parts, because it relates to both Supergirl and Psycho Pirate, you know, saying that Supergirl was revealed to be Harbinger, as both Harbinger and Psycho Pirate in the comic storyline are affiliated with someone else, shall we say, that we might see in this part, maybe in part 3. So that could be what we see in some flashbacks, or just play out in the present day throughout the story. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. But if it does play out either way, like whether it is flashbacks throughout the present day, there could just be a reveal for later in this specific movie, or maybe in part 3. But I do think if they were going to reveal that, it would have to be in the second part. I think leaving that until part 3 would be too far. I think it's just waiting too much, and that means part 3 would have so much to do. So I think if it's going to be revealed, it'll be in part 2, whether it is through a flashback or through the present day, or maybe both. Now, big thing, no Flash in the trailer. Now, of course, you might be like, well, hold on. You know, he went away at the end of part 1. Now, he didn't necessarily die. He was different. He was old. Like, he'd aged a lot. So I'm very intrigued to see where that difference leads going forward, but it does make you wonder if there could be a hint in this movie as to his whereabouts. I'm not going to spoil if you haven't read the story what happens with the Flash and where he ends up and everything like that. But if we do cut back to him, that could be a big reveal point, which could tie back to some of that Harbinger and Psycho Pirate stuff and maybe some other characters if they want to include them. But I just feel like his story isn't done. A lot of people think that maybe that's a big change compared to the comic and what might happen. I think we're going to see him again, and we might see him and maybe who might have him as well. Now, I did mention the Anti-Monitor earlier in the trailer. Will we see him in this part, or will he be saved for part 3? I think you get him in this part. I would be very surprised if he's not in part 2, just because, once again, part 3 just sort of wanted to be like a finisher, like a final sort of climax sort of thing. I don't know if you just... I think he's probably like a part 2 cliffhanger, or like there's like a final 5-minute thing where he gets introduced. But maybe he's also teased throughout the second part as well, because he was sort of teased in part 1, but not really. Like, not really at all. But part 2 could be where he's properly teased, and then like a full-on reveal, and also, you know, get some stuff with him as well. So that's what I would expect, but once again, it's a wait and see, because there's not much shown in this teaser. But yeah, I'm looking forward to part 2. I enjoyed part 1. I didn't love it. It wasn't like a 10 out of 10 or anything to me, but I thought it was a pretty damn good, and I had like low expectations. So I was pretty happy with what we got in part 1. And, you know, it's got me excited for part 2. It was a bit mixed, I'd say, but I think from what I saw, I think, you know, most people that weren't trying to like just be negative for the sake of being negative enjoyed it. And that could have been because the trailer didn't look that great for a lot of people, but then the movie ended up being a bit better than the trailer. So maybe that's what it was. So hopefully with part 2, people still enjoy it and everything like that. But I'm looking forward to it whenever it does choose to come out. But of course, when the second trailer drops, or the proper official trailer, if that does happen for part 2, we'll cover it. And hopefully there's more things to discuss there before part 2 releases, whenever that might be. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it, show your support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts and everything we went over. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.